Hey friend, it's me Vasco with a quick announcement. We at the Scrum Master Toolbox podcast are organizing this year's Scrum Master Summit. For tickets and details on the summit, check out the URL bit.ly/SM Summit 22. All one word, SMSUMMIT 22. And now, on to the show. Hello, everybody. Welcome to our Wednesday with Jurgen Appelo. Hi, Jurgen. Welcome back.
Hey, good to be back, Vasco.
So Wednesdays are change leadership episodes, and today is not going to be an exception to that. We'll talk about change with Jurgen. I mean, Jurgen has written a lot about change in the past. He even wrote a book called How to Change the World. So let's start with that. So you wrote that How to Change the World book in 2012. And today we're here to talk about change again. But walk us through what has changed in your mind and your perspective regarding change since 2012 when you wrote the book.
Well, here's a silly anecdote, Vasco. I have my name, Jurgen, means a worker of the land. It's from apparently from Old Greek. Or something. And I've never been particularly proud of that meaning. I thought, okay, I'm a farmer, apparently, whatever. But then a couple of years ago, I found another meaning for the name. It says, okay, so it means a person who knows how to change the world. And then I thought, I wrote a book on that topic. It's the meaning of my name. Isn't that amazing? So suddenly I had much more appreciation for the name Jurgen, which is not just a worker of the land, but someone who knows how to change the world. So, and I thought that was funny at the time when I discovered that. But also perhaps reflects that I care about this topic indeed. And I already covered that in the last chapters of my first book, Management 3.0. But what I find again and again in the Agile community is on the one hand, there is an emphasis of Kaizen, which we borrowed from lean thinking, of course, Toyota production system, etc., the step-by-step change, good stuff. But then many of the models are intentionally designed to be disruptive.
What do you mean by that? It's good to explain.
It is there on the website of Large Scale Scrum, less, for example, that it is a significant change, a disruptive change to implement less in an organization. And people experience SAFe in a similar way. They find it disruptive. Big things change for them in the company. I mean, it takes a whole rollout, a quote unquote, of the framework and an implementation with lots of courses and everything. That is not a gradual step-by-step change. And the opposite of Kaizen, by the way, is Kaikaku. There are two words. Kaizen is gradual step-by-step change. Kaikaku is disruptive, big change. And you need both. Usually you need Kaizen, but sometimes you need Kaikaku. And I learned that also from complexity literature, where they said Kaizen, step-by-step change, can make you end up in a local optimum where you climb up to a hill, and then by the time you get to the top of the hill, you see another hill further away that is higher. But guess what? You can't get there by step-by-step improvement. You have to break things up again, be disruptive, and jump to another place of the fitness landscape. That's what Kaikaku is for. Now, my concern is that the methods and frameworks that I've seen are quite often intentionally disruptive. Holacracy is the same thing. It is intentionally very disruptive by design. And I thought, maybe it is good to start Kaizen with step-by-step change, because that's what Lean has taught us. A small change to an existing situation, and only switch to Kaikaku when it is necessary, when you see that you have achieved the local optimum, and then you really need to jump across the fitness landscape to get somewhere else. So I have tried to offer unFIX as a way to also have to start out with Kaizen, with step-by-step change, small modifications, instead of hey, here's a complete new thing. Everyone will need to be certified in this framework, and then we have a whole bunch of consultants and coaches and everything to guide you with the disruptive change. Because it turns out that it's often not very appreciated. We talked about the human experience previous episodes. It is difficult for people. I prefer to begin with gradual step-by-step change.
Of course, one would argue that when you think about where many of our organizations, at least the ones that I've worked at, were in the early 2000s, evolutionary change, as Kanban community also calls it, right? The gradual change would not bring about the necessary changes. Even today, even in 2022, many developers would think that adopting extreme programming practices would be a disruptive change, even though it's only development practices, right? Like it's not organizational design. So one of the things that from the perspective of the Agile community that I'm taking now, one of the things that I worry though is, aren't we focusing on improving a system that is wrong by design when we talk about evolutionary change? I mean, that was one of the big oppositions to the whole Kanban movement. It was that evolutionary change is not possible when you start from a Tayloristic industrial mindset.
Yes, that's a good point. Definitely an interesting take on it. I would say even then, it could be useful to first develop your change muscles, even if you're working on a system that is best replaced completely by something else. That can hurt significantly. I mean, it's a shock. Disruptive change is a shock. Like, I mean, COVID was a shock for many people in the world. It was disruptive, certainly for me and my business. But I look back on it as a positive thing, probably, when we have everything behind us, because I invented new things, I reinvented myself, new business models, etc., that I would not have had if it wasn't for that shock. But you can also say it was much easier for me to cope with this disruption because I had already done a lot of gradual change before. I had developed my change muscles, as you could say. I could say, okay, bring it on. I have done the easy stuff, the step-by-step change. Now give me that storm, and I will weather it. And get better out of it on the other side. So yes, some organizations might need the disruption, they might need the storm, but will people survive it? Or would they need a little bit of a chance to get used to gradual change, develop their change muscles, maybe even if it is a wrong system that needs to be replaced, but just gets them used to the idea that things won't be the same, that and that we're going to change things around here. As some people say, let's start with the low-hanging fruit. That's another metaphor, right? And you can always do the difficult things later on, but at least it will help people develop their mindset that change is not necessarily a bad thing.
I think that's a great call to action for us, especially as Scrum Masters, because gradual change happens every day, and we are working with the teams every day. And perhaps a good metaphor for us to think about what our role is in a team, which is getting them ready for whatever disruptive change might come. And the disruptive change in some cases might be the adoption of SAFe or LESS or some other method or framework. But it might also be a reorganization. In many large companies, that's a common thing that happens every few months, if not years. And therefore, I think that's a great way for us as Scrum Masters, taking it from what you just shared, to be ready, because the disruptive change is coming. And if it's not there yet, it's something that we even want to happen at some point, right? Because businesses change, the market changes, the world around us changes. But by working on these smaller changes with the teams, kind of helping them go through these smaller changes like dynamic reteaming, we were talking about it earlier this week, we help them to get ready for the next big step. Is that something you would consider as a set of tasks or perspectives that Scrum Masters could take?
Definitely, yes. And I think it also ties into another insight I have from systems thinking. John Gall wrote this fantastic book, The Systems Bible, full of wise words and tongue-in-cheek comments. And one of my favorites is that you cannot create a complex system from scratch. You have to start small, with a small system that works, and then evolve it into something large that works. But you cannot make something large that works from scratch. You have to start over with something small. So I thought it was really useful insight in that indeed applies many times, more often than not. And for that reason as well, I would say, well, start with the small things first. Make change work at a small scale before you do it at a large scale, because that will be a large system that needs to work, the disruptive thing. Try to get used to the small things and make those work. If you're able to do that, then maybe you can raise the bar and consider something disruptive. So that's another source that I like using, and it basically says the same thing with different words.
Absolutely. So let's take the challenge, fellow Scrum Masters. Let's help our teams develop those change muscles. Thank you very much, Jurgen.
Awesome. Thank you too.
Hey friends, it's Vasco again, now with a bit longer announcement. I'm part of the team that is behind the Global Scrum Master Summit, the conference dedicated to the Scrum Master role. If you're a Scrum Master, the Scrum Master Summit is the place to learn, to share, and of course to meet new friends. We will have lots of live sessions where you can meet and network with other Scrum Masters from the whole globe. So make sure you check it at bit.ly/SM Summit 22. We have several amazing keynotes and 7 tracks that feature people like you and of course thought leaders sharing their insights, their knowledge, and helping you become an awesome Scrum Master. You can check out all of the details of the summit, including the keynotes announced, the track chairs, and much more at bit.ly/SM Summit 22. That's all one word. That's bit.ly/SM SUMMIT and the numeral 22. I'll see you on the conference floor.